More congressional hearings concerning a secret UAP reverse engineering program that may exist without any kind of congressional oversight. This week, the Jackalopes explore Immaculate Constellation.
This week's episode of Jackalopes Explore is brought to you by Cloud Peak Center Lanes and Games, located at 1520 Coffeen Avenue in Sheridan. Stop in today to check out their amazing new arcade and prize counter, offering games and prizes for all ages and skill levels. From their full-service lounge to bowling alley and arcade, there is something for everyone. Cloud Peak Center Lanes and Games. Stop in today.
I'm Floyd Whiting.
I'm freaking excited.
And I'm just here.
I don't have anything clever. I'm Emmy Whiting.
And we are your Jackalopes. Independent journalist Michael Schellenberger told News Nation that a whistleblower has revealed the existence of an alleged Pentagon UFO program called Immaculate Constellation. Schellenberger actually spoke with News Nation. I'm sure a lot of you pay attention to that. About this whistleblower report, which comes on the heels of similar allegations from Air Force intelligence officer David Grush and former Pentagon employee Lou Elizondo. Now, before we go too much farther, we talked a lot about the congressional hearings in which Mr. Grush was involved, and I do want to say I called him a whistleblower in the past. I'm not sure if that's true. David Grush works for the military, and you must remember that everything that he said was probably approved by the Pentagon. So going forward, who is Louis Elizondo, for those who don't know? If you're involved in the UFO community, then I'm pretty sure you know exactly who this man is. Louis Elizondo is now a media personality and author, but he was formerly employed by the United States Army Counterintelligence and once part of the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. Now, according to Elizondo, he was the director of a now defunct Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or the ATIP, which was associated with the Pentagon UFO videos. Elizondo's statements about his Pentagon role with AATIP have been contested by Pentagon officials. Basically, they've come forward and said everything that he said was made up. Of course they did. Since 2017, he's actually claimed that there's a government conspiracy to suppress evidence that UFOs are of extraterrestrial origin. Schellenberger did not reveal his whistleblower, their precise role, or whether they were employed as a member of the Department of Defense, as an employee, or a contractor. He was pretty vague about that. Journalists who bring whistleblower stories forward are responsible, in a way, for the safety of that whistleblower. Schellenberger said he met with this whistleblower and verified their credentials, and he's also done his own due diligence by independently confirming the existence of the program with other unrelated sources. Immaculate Constellation is an unacknowledged special access program established following the public disclosure of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program and the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program by Elizondo when he stepped forward in 2017. The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program was a secret, unclassified government study of unidentified flying objects and unexplained aerial phenomenon. They've gone from calling them UFOs to calling them UAPs. One reason is because they did their absolute best to debunk anybody who said UFO. So they've made this a dirty acronym. And so they needed to put their own acronym on this thing, and that is now UAP, Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. This program actually began in 2007, and this is all according to Elizondo. and was forced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, funded by the Defense Intelligence Agency, or the DIA, for 5 years, and was made public in 2017. ASWAP, or the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program, was a government program that researched speculative theories and technologies. It was funded by the DIA as well and overlapped with the other program. ASAP was the name of the contract awarded to Bigelow Aerospace, the primary contractor for this program. But now Immaculate Constellation has come forward. And I'm going to turn it over to Aaron. There has been some congressional hearings.
He has been jittering in his seat
He's shaking.
since we sat down.
Since midnight.
But one thing that I do want to say before we get to that point is we have the document here. It's widely available online and will probably become more available as you go forward. There are some interesting things in here. I'm not sure exactly what to make of it as of yet. There are still people out there verifying sources and trying to get other sources to confirm just exactly what this thing's talking about. But during the congressional hearings yesterday, we learned quite a bit. Aaron, who was there?
Well, it's interesting that you bring up Bigelow Aerospace, because Bigelow is the guy that originally bought Skinwalker Ranch prior to the newest owner. So there you go. So I was going to start this thing out by saying, so I sat down and watched all 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 45 seconds of this so that you didn't have to. With that being said, totally go watch it, because it's
absolutely,
it's mind-blowing,
I
some of this stuff.
I got to 2 hours because that's what I had this morning. But I was very much in it the entire time. Unlike the last time.
The last time, yeah.
The last time I was like, I didn't get anything from that, you know?
And so with that kind of being said, I thought this was going to be more like Grush favor, whatever, like, really like to talk to you about that offline in a skiff. And that was every answer. Like, we walked away from that not knowing anything. This one, completely different, although they gave those answers sometimes because there are some things that they can't talk about. This was way more open.
Yes, I agree.
And so we'll just kind of get into it. I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to go fast. But I've got like 6 full pages that document this entire thing with some of my own witty interjections. So
that's why I'm here.
That's why Steve's here. So Congresswoman Nancy Mace from South Carolina chaired this congressional hearing. And she said that UAPs deserve greater attention and that the evidence is inextricably based on science, physics, and what we know. That non-human intelligence, which later on they started just calling non-HI, which they're coming up with new terms for a lot of this stuff as they went, has been interacting with us for a long time. She wanted to know what the extent of ongoing and past UAP programs were. And also mentioned that we really don't know because we don't know where the funding's coming from, because when the Pentagon has been audited, the last 6 times it hasn't passed audit.
Right.
Not to mention, the Pentagon's never passed an audit.
I did love that. She was just like, let me just put that in there.
Let me just throw that up there. So then she got into the all-domain anomaly resolution officer, AARO, that is kind of the new ATIP in a way. She said, and I thought this was a great point, that if there is no there, then why are we spending money on this at all? If there is nothing there to research, if it's just a fallacy and a myth, why are we spending all this time and money on researching this?
And counterintelligence.
All of it.
It's a lot of resources.
Yeah, if it doesn't exist, why? Why would we do it? And then got into secret UAP programs purposely withheld from Congress. She then introduced Mr. Garcia, and he's a Democrat that said that this is not a partisan issue or topic in any way. This is an American topic, if not a global topic, because it affects everybody. It doesn't matter what side of anything anyone's on, that disclosure is important, and that we know there are objects in our skies and, capital letters, underlined, oceans, and we cannot guess as to what they are, but they are truly unknown, and commercial pilots have no current way to report sightings without stigma attached to it. So based off of the last congressional hearing, so even though they didn't really tell us much, they did enact the Safe Airspace for Americans Act. And it was a act of Congress for commercial and civilian pilots for U.S. UAP discussions, and said that it should be going an ongoing process for years to come. Mr. Grothman then talked about Fravor, Grush, Graves. The DOD had no UAP reporting, and now they do. However, as we'll find out from Mr. Elizondo, it's quite flawed currently, but it's new. So,
and just to interject, the Pentagon came forward, and I'm trying to remember my timeline here. I want to say it was sometime in May of this year, and basically said there's no evidence for UFOs. Bottom line, done, finished.
So, which is funny because of the Safe Airspace for Americans Act, it is actually now a database of historical UAP records that are being gathered and databased. He then went on to mention the drone swarm over Langley Air Force Base, which we haven't covered on the show, and we really should, because no one knew what they were. They were 20 feet long, moving over 100 miles an hour at 3,000-foot elevation, and there were hundreds of them over the course of a week.
Wow.
That's a little bizarre. Hundreds.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And that's military-grade drones if they're drones. 20-foot long, come on.
Yeah. And buzzing a military installation.
Yeah, and they did nothing about it.
And we couldn't do anything. Yeah.
Remember when we were supposed to raid Area 51?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, right?
And they were like, we'll shoot you down. Do not come here.
And now they're just letting these drones fly overhead.
Don't touch those. We don't quite know what those are yet. So he's calling for declassification of UAP reports and said that many of them are so old that there's no reason to not release them at this point in time, and suggested that anything over 15 years old be released, which I think at least gives us that time frame of, okay, like the Tic Tac video, or was it the Go Fast? I'm not sure. Was 2004.
Yeah.
Well, that's 20 years old. And imagine if that's 20-year-old technology, what do they have now?
Well, we got to think about what an acknowledgement would mean. This is something that I've touched on in the past. What would it mean if the government came forward and said, yeah, not only do we have evidence for them, but we've been suppressing it from you,
right?
The American people for X amount of time.
I think most people would go, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Right?
At the same time,
I expected that.
What is that honestly an acknowledgement of then?
Lying.
That
constant lying.
And possible unaliving.
Right.
To keep things quiet.
Right.
There's been a lot of mysterious disappearances, a lot of mysterious deaths surrounding UFOs in the UFO community, people just suddenly dying in very odd ways. So if we're going to acknowledge that, yes, we've been suppressing this, now we got to go, okay, well, how have you been suppressing
this to do that?
Exactly.
Right.
How have you been suppressing this? Are you responsible for this individual's death? Are you responsible for this individual not being able to speak? Are you responsible for that? Because that is an action taken by the U.S. government against a citizen of the United States. There's a lot more attached to this.
Right.
Than people just going, oh, well, yeah, UFOs are real.
Yeah.
It's an acknowledgement of an underbelly that is dirty.
Well, yeah, think about like when the Chernobyl accident happened and the Soviet Union was forced to kind of acknowledge a lot of stuff that they'd kept under wraps.
Right.
That was kind of the beginning of the end of the Soviet Union. So,
well, I mean, look, it's a lot of people want to walk around and say, the government's after you. Like a lot of people want to do that. Generally, I don't think so. Number one, sorry, but the majority of us are not important enough to designate anybody to come and get you. But if you are about to expose a program of this magnitude as your government, I got an issue with that. And especially if the legacy of it was handed to me by someone else, and now during my time this is going to start unraveling.
Right, coming out.
This is a lot going on.
You don't want to be that guy.
You're going to
Right.
be, and that's the thing. Someone's got to be that guy.
Right.
Someone's got to have the integrity to step forward. But if what you and I have talked about in the past is true, that we did get private corporations involved to help us reverse engineer this stuff, guess what? It's not up to you alone. It's up to a bunch of CEOs who control technology,
Who are living on Mars.
who could possibly be a part of Solar Warden.
Yeah.
You know,
Go check out that episode, by the way.
and now I've got to think about financial interests as well.
Oh, 100%.
If suddenly someone goes forward and say, by the way, your company's been a part of this and you guys haven't said anything about it, you guys could be assisting.
They go, oh, well, we have this NDA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then boom. Now I'm worried about stock prices. I'm worried about what the heck's going to happen. I mean, what does this mean? There's too many question marks at the end of this trail for anybody involved to want to continue to walk down it, except people like us, where we're like, we deserve to know the truth.
Right.
100%.
So there's a
100%.
lot involved in this.
And they actually later on say that the American people need to know the truth. But so then Mr. Muskowitz is introduced, and he talks about the 366 sightings that were investigated, and 171 of those still remain unidentified. So it wasn't swamp gas. It wasn't a weather balloon. It's, we don't know what the hell that is.
And that is scary. What
That's
if
super
what,
scary.
What if it is a foreign country? What if
Yeah.
it is?
That's one of the things that we'll kind of get into is it doesn't matter what it is. And we've talked about that before. It doesn't matter what it is. It's here. It's invading our airspace. It's hanging out over Langley Air Force Base and sensitive nuclear facility sites. And we don't know how it got there or who it is.
Yeah, at one
That's
point,
a problem.
I remember them saying something like, this could be CGI, this could be our government, and we don't know.
Yep.
You know, and that's the thing. We don't know what it is. And
strategically, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's wrong.
That's
but
a
I
problem.
just, when I thought about CGI, I was like, that's an interesting thought. You know what
Project
I mean?
Bluey.
Project
Yeah.
Check
Bluey.
that episode out. Yep. We've got them all. And he said that these reports go back to 1945. Most committee members actually were asked by other people, air bunnies, not to hold this hearing and not to ask certain individuals certain questions.
Interesting.
And they were like, nuts to that. We're going to do it anyway. So it's, he went on to say, he goes, and like, you know, Mr. Elizondo, you know, he's credentialed, whatever. They had a Rear Admiral, Lou Elizondo, Schellenberger that came out with a report, and Mr. Gold, who had worked for NASA, whatever. I mean, these are like really acclaimed people, to which Mr. Muskowitz had said, these aren't just people living in Winnebagos.
I know. I loved that part. I was like,
Oh my God.
these are not just four people sitting in a garage doing a podcast.
yeah. Yeah.
Right? These are serious people.
Be in the back of a Winnebago. Take this thing on the road.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
So they entered into the congressional record the 12-page report that Floyd has of Immaculate Constellation. Congresswoman Mace said that she was warned by her team, quote unquote, if I say Immaculate Constellation one more time, I may end up on a list, maybe with a FISA warrant, to which she then said,
Come at me, bro.
come at me, bro.
I loved it.
So
Good.
these people are like, no nonsense. They're like, okay, enough's enough. Bullshit. What's the story?
We finally got a congresswoman with more balls than
Oh,
half
man.
of the guys in this country. And I
So
am
good.
all here for it.
So good.
Go get them.
So then Rear Admiral Gaudet, Lou Elizondo, Mike Schellenberger, and Michael Gold. And we talked about Rear Admiral, we know Lou, Schellenberger, journalist, reporter, and then Michael Gold, NASA. Gaudet said that in 2015, U.S. East Coast Fleet Forces Command sent out an email marked Urgent Safety of Flight Issue. What these were near-air collisions. This is where the Go Fast video came from.
Yep.
The email inexplicably disappeared the next day. Off of
Vanished?
everyone that was sent it email server because it was considered spillage. These people were not supposed to know about this, and they didn't want it getting out. So they literally deleted it off of their emails.
Someone,
the smoking man. So super bizarre.
Could you imagine being so high up in the military that you command entire fleets and someone goes into your email and starts deleting things without any kind of acknowledgement?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, don't you think that's more suspicious that it's just gone now?
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean,
that's why I just print everything.
I mean, I'm not sure, those who are involved in the military know that by the time you hit admiral, you're up there. And I don't mean like you're up there. You are up there. And so to think that someone's popping into an admiral's emails saying you're not authorized to see this. Whoa, champ.
Yeah, right.
Who are you to say that? And I understand admirals don't have clearance to everything. Generals don't have clearance to everything. But to pop into one of their emails and delete it without their knowledge,
multiple of their emails,
I'd be pissed.
And it's one of those like ultra gaslight things, right? Like you're like,
yeah.
I know it was
Didn't
here.
I see this?
Yeah. Yep.
That's a great way to put
Kinda
it.
like
Where'd you hide my goddamn car keys?
When you and I were talking about Dark Pyramid, the whistleblower of the Dark Pyramid saw the news report, went down to see and learn more information, gets down to the newsroom,
Like,
and the people in the newsroom are like, what news report did you see?
Go check out that episode.
Yeah.
So just all this crazy stuff, but he had gone on to say that UAP info is being withheld from government officials and Congress. And he spelled out kind of a detailed plan on oversight, reporting, release of info, and mentioned specifically, again, underwater oceanic craft.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get to Lou Elizondo. He said, UAPs are real. They are not made on this earth. They're monitoring military installations in the U.S., and they are in possession of UAP technologies, as are other countries. Now, this is where I go down my own jackalope hole, is I'm watching this whole panel of experts, right? Behind them, you can see people seated.
Yeah.
But you can only see from about chest down. I encourage you, when you watch the video or go back and watch the video, all of the hand signals that are going on from the people that are sitting behind them.
Really?
And if you're not hip on all the crazy hand signals, you go watch different congressional hearings, Senate hearings, world leaders that have gotten together, actors, the whole Diddy thing, and there's you can find collages of 100 different power players, let's call them, doing the same hand signs, and they're not natural hand signs.
And I wouldn't have even looked.
Go
So
back.
I definitely need
look.
to now. Yeah.
It is insane. Elizondo also spelled out a 3-point plan on oversight, disclosure, and reporting. And he said at the end of his opening, we can handle the truth.
Yeah.
So then Schellenberger jumps in. He wants oversight of the executive branch and military because neither are transparent. Interestingly enough, he brought up that there's only been 2 presidents that have ever stated that there is UAP information, Obama and Trump, and that it had not been released, and stated that UAPs are in fact a physical craft. We have collections of low Earth, high altitude, and maritime high-res photos, videos, etc. that are being overly classified from decades ago even.
Do you know that there's more evidence for the existence of UAPs than there is for some medical science that's being applied?
Yeah.
Right.
It
It's
is
insane.
the evidence that UAPs are here is overwhelming and stacking more and more every single day.
Well, and they talked about that too. And one of the questions to Elizondo was, are there just more of them? What's going on? And he goes, I think it's just that people have cameras
On them all the time.
Yes.
and whether it's a Ring doorbell, catching something, breaking up over Las Vegas, or you with your cell phone, or high-grade military infrared. It's everywhere all the time now.
And I can't remember. Somebody said something about sensors, right? Like the military itself, the U.S. government itself, science, NASA. We've got more varying types of sensors that are out there where we can pick up things that we would have never even seen. 10, 15 years ago, these things could have been, more than likely were, flying around all over the place, and we just couldn't see them.
Yeah.
Now, our equipment has become so sensitive. We're starting to pick it up. And amateur equipment is becoming more sensitive. And amateurs are starting to pick this up. Not people looking for UAPs, people who are like, I want a clear image of Mars.
Right.
I want to see Mars in my X-ray, ultraviolet, off the spectrum, see if I can learn anything for fun. And all of a sudden they're like, holy shit, what is that?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And you're starting to see these things come forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we get down to U.S. government has been denying recent FOIA requests for more and more since 2017.
Here's my deal about that. Who?
Yeah, well, right.
Who in the U.S. government can look at a congressman or a congresswoman and say, I'm not approving that stip without an explanation?
Yeah.
Well,
and I mean a thorough 20-page explanation why you are going to deny my elected official a skiff. Who are you? And how do I get you fired?
Well, and what do you know?
Exactly. Why are you hiding this from the American people?
Right.
Before we leave, we're going to explore possibilities on that. Go ahead.
Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force redacts information so heavily that Schellenberger actually held up a piece of paper, and really, aside from like maybe somebody's title and like the last part
seal.
of their email
all
address,
blacked out.
Yeah.
all blacked out with the white lettering like B1, refer to this page for nothing.
Yeah.
And just
Freedom of Information Act. Here you go.
here you go. It's a black sheet of paper. It's literally kind of insane. He said that the Pentagon and government are treating the American public like children, and it is high time that we know the truth. I think we can all handle it. So you've got Elizondo saying that. You got Schellenberger saying it. Like, we can handle it. Release stuff. At least the 15, 20-year-old stuff. Come on. We all know it's out there. Don't, like I told Kranz the other day, I said, don't pee at my skirt and tell me you're smoking. Right? Like,
I don't know what that means, but go ahead.
I was I don't know either.
But basically, don't tell me it's not happening.
Yeah.
Don't gaslight me, because y'all know.
Well, the government's stance on everything, right?
Right.
Deny, 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 deny. Turn your back, and
It's
just,
what they do.
When you've got nothing to say, you don't say anything at all.
Right.
And who's going to make me?
Yeah. Well, hopefully these folks
who's
do.
going to make me?
So about 40 minutes in, we hit Mr. Gold, and he said, courage is needed in the face of this adversity. Now, again, my own little jackalope poll, starting at 41 minutes and 28 seconds in the video. And it's on YouTube. You can find it. New York Post, I believe, put it up. And so it's 2 hours, 17 minutes, 45 seconds long. At the about 41:39 mark, you'll notice a guy with his wiggling index fingers on the side of Mr. Gold. And most notably, at 41:56 and 42:08 through about 42:16, there's a man, and he's got very distinguishable tattoos on him. And he's sitting like this, and then he fidgets up here. And then as soon as Gold starts talking about UAPs, he starts doing different hand signals. And it's absolutely, so he's kind of fidgeting, whatever, and then he starts doing like a triangle and then a weird kind of heart shape, and then he's like up here doing stuff. It's not freaking normal.
Wow.
This guy's not just like me sitting there going, come on, get to me, like whatever. You don't start like, hey, steal third, like.
I was literally just thinking that, like, it's a clear message.
It's a clear sign to
to
somebody.
someone.
So Go back. Those are the timestamps. 4156, 4208, 4216.
You're going to have to
Watch
send those
these
to me
guys.
later.
I will.
Because I need to see.
It's literally so blatant and brazen that it can't.
Like he wasn't even trying to hide it.
Well, that's the weird thing.
Kinda.
Like, why not just send a text message? Why do it so obviously visually?
There's a whole. We could go down the jackalope hole on those things.
Do you
at some
think they
point.
like don't have access to phones in there or something?
Potentially,
be?
if maybe not, but why are they placed where they're placed? Why are they making these hand signals the way that they're making them? What are the keywords that they're signaling based off of? I don't know. I mean, watch it and make your own determination. Leave comments for us in this video below because I'd love to know. There's got to be somebody out there that listens to us or watches us that's like, that's this. I mean, it just has to be.
Now, you talked about the tattoos. There is a very famous filmmaker, and I can't remember his name because I didn't know I was going to have to bring him up. But he has done a lot on trying to push forward disclosure. He's done appearances on Joe Rogan. He did the Bob Lazar UFO documentary.
Oh, yeah.
This guy is really working. I mean, he's one of us. He's working his guts out to try and expose the truth and get people to talk. If I remember correctly, he is heavily tattooed. Again, like I said, when I watched the video, I didn't pay attention to any of that. I kind of had it on
I'm
in the
always on
background.
the watch.
Yeah, I kind of had it on in the background, and I was trying to get some other things done on top of it. So I was more listening than watching.
Yeah.
But I do, like, during the course of the video, I did see that he was there in the crowd, and he was sitting right up front.
Right.
So it may be him, but if it is, I don't think he's sending any kind of nefarious message. So viewers, if you want to go out, look at those things. Emmy, I know you will as well. Look for that individual. He's very well groomed, bearded, silver hair, fairly good looking guy. You'll know him when you see him because he's not one of these sitting suits that you see. I believe he was
this
like
guy's
in a
almost
t-shirt.
like in fatigues ish.
It almost seems like a purposely covert way of communicating, though.
Yeah.
Like intentionally blatant, but at the same time not. It's.
But at the same time, it could have been zoom in. You're doing great. Get close. Whatever. I don't know.
Steel third.
I don't know. Steel third. Yeah.
Yeah, because it seems like if you really wanted to secretly communicate something, there are more secretive ways to do it than that.
Rather,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Other than, like Aaron
Right
said.
here.
Yeah.
Right
Go for the
on
bunt.
camera.
Go for the bunt.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I highly suggest, at least if you're not going to watch the whole thing, fast forward to those parts, check it out. Tell me if I'm crazy. Then Mace questions. She said that there was 2017 satellite imagery that showed UAPs. And can you tell us what that was? The answer? I can tell you in a closed setting. So more of that.
Well,
right?
and there was some of that, especially
was.
I feel like, especially at the beginning,
Here's my
But
question,
the
though.
more they went,
the
the
kind
less
of the,
there was
Right.
of that.
And so it starts this way. Like, I'd like to tell you, but we got to have a skiff, or if we had a closed meeting, blah, blah, blah. My weird part of this is, though, she knew to ask the question. What does she know?
Right. Yeah.
Like, where did that come? They can't talk about it, but she brought it up.
Mhm.
So she knows that this thing exists. That was kind of a weird level of mystery that I'm like, well, if you've seen it and you're talking, why don't you just talk about it? Why do you have to ask these guys about it?
Well,
she's
she does mention having like access to certain things, like
Yeah.
right there, that we're not seeing.
Right.
So some of that information could tie into why she would ask that question in the first place, but he just can't answer it in that setting.
I know.
Well,
but if
and
she's got the info.
As somebody who talks to people every day and asks questions, I would rather hear it, even though I might know it.
Right.
I want to
Yeah.
hear the expert say
Yep.
it, right? I could sit up there as a journalist, as a congressman, and say, hey, we've got this, we've got that. Someone will say, well, Congressman Floyd Whiting said this, but what the hell does he know?
Right.
But if I got an expert to talk about it and confirm what we're seeing here, now that's different.
Yeah.
So that may be what she was doing. She may have been throwing the hook in the water. Bite on this. I need you guys to confirm this for me.
Right,
because I
right.
can tell the American people till I'm blue in the face, but I'm just a congressman. You guys worked in this field. You guys have been studying this for years. You've exposed other things. Expose this.
Right.
But what if, and whenever they did that, when it concerned that, that's where I start to think, all right, I'm pulling back on this image because this image is Solar Warden, not UFOs. Or this image is our stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't want to talk openly about American military secrets, but I will talk about UFOs.
Yeah,
Right.
I was thinking that there's got to be some national security stuff that is legitimate government operations that they don't want to get mixed up with all of
And
this.
it could
Absolutely.
overlap.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah, very
this-
much
and
so.
This is where I'm going to interject, and I am going to say, and yes, I've had viewers accuse me of, being more for the government than the people, but that's not true. I'm for the people, but we need to guard our military secrets.
Mhm.
And they even
above
say that.
and beyond.
Yeah.
Okay. I do not support anyone who comes forward with a military secret that would harm either American citizens or American
Right, like
service
movement
members.
of troops or
Absolutely.
sensitive information
Yes.
where we're going to lose people. Or
Now, I do not support that in any way. And if the U.S. government does have like secret aircraft that we've been developing and we're out testing, or maybe, hell, guys, we like Solar Warden. We could be on going to and from Mars all the time. If that is a military secret, then the public doesn't need to know about it.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
There
but
has to be secrets.
Exactly.
There has to be.
we have to maintain the integrity of our military above and beyond. So that I completely agree with. Now, corruption, harming U.S. citizens, hiding the fact that there is alien life, intelligent alien life, that is not a military secret.
Right.
No.
That needs to be known by the people for the people, and we are the people.
Mhm.
So, go ahead.
So then she asks Elizondo, where are these things coming from? Are they non-HI? Again, they're just now coining phrases. His answer, I could tell you in a closed setting.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm damn near an hour into this thing, and I'm like, an hour and 20 minutes left. Is it just going to be more of the grushness
Yes.
of it? And
that
I'm
was
like,
my thought exactly. I was like, oh, damn, are we doing this again? Where
Right.
it's just going to be, I can talk about this in a different setting. It's like, then why have this?
right.
The
Why
Pentagon
have-
says
I mean-
they're going to release a report and it's one page.
Yeah.
And it's black.
And all it says is aliens do not exist.
Yeah.
See following
It's just
report.
more of the same.
But it's like aliens and then
Yeah,
black
nothing.
Yeah.
does
just
not
black.
exist. It's like,
Yeah,
there's something in the
In conclusion, look the other way.
In conclusion, the end. Oh, sweet. And you got to keep in mind, for people that know us, we go from like 5:45 in the morning until like last night. We didn't even get home until like 7:30, had dinner, whatever, hung out for a while, took dogs out, whatever. So we're an hour in. It's like freaking 11:15, and I'm getting, I could tell you in a close setting.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I could sleep, or I could listen to, I could tell you in a skiff or closed setting, or I can just push through because I love you out there in audience land. So I pushed through, and I'm glad I did because a lot more cool stuff came out. She then starts just kind of going, okay, I'm just going to ask a question and go down the line. And
Yeah.
you just, hello. And you just answer the question.
Was she apparently, was she getting frustrated by that kind of BS as
You know,
well?
I didn't catch that it was frustration. I just thought it was, let's get to the point here.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's
It
get to
wasn't-
why we are here.
Yeah,
Okay.
she never got like pissed
Yeah.
about it. She was more like, I understand, but you're gonna answer some questions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she just starts kind of just, going down in machine gun fashion. And she's
Bring
like,
in the rack.
yep. Has the U.S. government conducted UAP crash retrieval programs? To Elizondo, yes. Were they designed to recover and reverse engineer alien craft? Yes. In your book, you claim that the government is paying damages to U.S. citizens and armed forces that were injured in these efforts. Yes. To which she craftily said, how can we deny that these craft exist if the U.S. government is paying people that were injured by recovering the craft? Elizondo, that's a great question, and why I think we're here today. I have seen the documentation by the U.S. government, but again, can't really answer. Kind of answer, no answer. Schellenberger, Immaculate Constellation, what is it and how is it funded? He said it is an unacknowledged special access project with a mission to document UAPs. The rest he did not want to say, aside from that the U.S. is sitting on a treasure trove of high-resolution images, videos, and other sensory information. Then it went down the line of the co-chairs. There were different points of interest from this 53 minutes. Elizondo said DOD gave him an NDA years ago, so he can't talk about much. He gave an extensive military background of his counterintelligence, etc. And one of the Congress people actually said, so you're not just a conspiracy theorist? And he said, not at all. I'm based in science. Like, I'm the nuts and bolts guy. I don't do conspiracies. I look at the facts. So he's not hanging out in Winnebagos, apparently.
Like us.
Yeah.
Then Gaudette, he was actually in on the Omaha incident. And I think we're all familiar with that, where they were on board of the USS Omaha when there was the UFO that was just kind of hovering around and then just submerged into the water. He was actually there. Could not explain the UAP that was above the water and then entered into the water exhibiting transmedian travel. The Tic Tac of 2004, why, if it's over 20 years old, why are we withholding it? His answer was that there's no good reason aside from the government may say that it shows holes in our security and weakness. Which I thought was, that's the reason. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it came from. Who else can get in here?
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a huge problem.
And you don't want to talk about the hole that the mouse is coming in because you're inviting rats.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. So he spoke of government agencies discrediting stories and actually deflecting them away. Elizondo went on to say UAPs over nuclear assets and military sites are well documented for decades, and they cannot.
We've talked about those here.
Yeah, we talked about those a long time ago.
Is it like, and they can, these controls are not even supposed to be any kind of remote at all.
Right.
They're taking off networks on purpose so that it cannot ever be taken over remotely. And yet this object, and you can go back, you can watch the shows, you can look it up yourself, on and off. It's almost as if these things are letting us know, I can do this.
We're in control.
Just so you know, I can make this happen.
Yeah, so they've been hovering over these things for decades, and he said that we can't release this information due to vulnerabilities in national security. Schellenberger then said that the Immaculate Constellation is not circular reporting, as all of the reports in that document are new. None of these were like, well, I heard in 2006 that, nope, this is all new stuff that was verifiable. And I thought it was interesting. He even said, when questioned further about some of his sources, he said, I would go to prison to protect my sources.
Yeah,
I'm not telling anyone. Elizondo said UAPs are an enigma and a huge point of frustration. And I mean, you could tell. He was like, we know they're there. We don't know what the there is, though.
And, okay, like, look at it from the NSA, CIA. Look at it.
Alphabet agencies.
Alphabet agency. You're a part of an alphabet agency, and it's your job to know. Literally to know that when Congress or anybody, senators sit you down and say what's going on, it's your job to know. And when they ask you about various objects in the sky that have been hanging out over top of our nuclear weapons, you don't know. Deal. You just don't know. We have no idea. Oh, okay. Well, why don't you have an idea? Because I can't capture them. I can't communicate with. I have no idea what these are.
Can you imagine those? So, I mean, you're sitting in the Oval Office and you're like, I want to know what these things were over Langley and why we didn't do anything. And you have all your top brass there. And they're like,
Yeah.
That is not confidence building.
Yeah, exactly.
At all.
Time to bring in the pizza.
Yeah.
Exactly. Elizondo,
Get Domino's on the phone now.
right,
Not sponsored.
kept using the term Blue Force technology. And I haven't had time to look that up, but I'm like,
Blue Force technology.
yes.
So, Blue Force.
Is that like black projects? What like,
I don't even know.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not going to make a comment on it. I'll
So
talk to
anyway,
you. I'll talk to you guys in a skip.
I'd like to take your questions offline if I could.
I just look. The fact of the matter is, I don't know what the world knows.
Right.
But like what we used, it was nothing special. I mean, Jesus Christ! When I went over there, I was involved in military operations with the Wyoming Army National Guard.
Right.
From 2001 until 2014. So everything that I saw is ancient. And my reference to that word and your reference to that word could be totally different things.
Absolutely.
Okay. We'll talk in a skip.
Taking that one offline. Burchett then comes on and says, are there UAP crash retrieval programs currently running without proper congressional oversight? Elizondo, 100%. 100%. Godot then switched to submersible craft. And in the 80s, there was documentation of one that had the speed of a Russian torpedo that showed up then in the wake of a sub, slowed way down, followed the sub for some time, and then left the scene as fast as it entered and vanished. And he said there is no technology that we have that can do underwater maneuvers like this.
And we've talked about that quite frequently, where by getting private corporations involved to help reverse engineer these things, there were obviously deals that were cut. You help me, I'll help you. We've theorized about how a lot of the massive advancements in technology probably came from this originally. And I do believe that like this entire hearing was kind of an acknowledgement of that. But every CEO who retires out of these big corporations ends up saying something absolutely just mind-boggling.
Yeah, bonkers.
Like, I could have got an ET home and stuff like that. I mean, we went into that in depth in the Solar Warden episode because it's the idea that once I have this technology, if it literally is, whether that be centuries or millenniums, advanced above what we have, I'm going to sit on that for a long time and slowly trickle out these other minor technologies that my scientists and developers can actually make over the course of the next 300 years.
Right.
If I walk up to you and say 0 point gravity technology is not just possible, we've had it since 1952.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to look at me and go, you son of a bitch.
Right.
You're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
And why would you be? If I looked at you and said, you know this energy crisis going on? You know that gas price that you've been talking about? We could have gotten rid of that. But I need money.
Right.
Yeah.
Always need the money.
And you're going to
show
pay
me the money.
The system. One thing that people need to understand, the government is not just, and look, it's great that we're having these hearings. It's great that we finally got a Congress that is willing to go after these guys. The system that guides all of us relies on the capitalistic economy. That capitalistic economy cannot exist with endless free energy.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of a big money maker.
It's the cornerstone. It is the Rockefeller of our capitalist economy.
New World Order episode coming soon.
But you have to acknowledge that the government does understand. I need you to get up. I need you to burn fuel. I need you to pay taxes.
Fly places.
It has to continue this way.
Right. So he goes on to say that, and he discussed the various morphologies or shape of the craft having various physiological effects and biological effects upon humans depending on the type of craft, which would infer that there's a large database of multiple encounters. You can't tell me, well, the Tic Tac shape made me nauseous based off of one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So I found this to be one of those hidden gems in this thing. If you're just watching it and you're like, okay, weird. Different shapes have different physiological or biological effects on people. Cool, whatever. You don't know that unless you have hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of documented cases of, well, shit, the boomerang one gave me constipation, and that's across the board. Like, so there's clearly a huge database of this stuff somewhere.
And who's gathering that data?
Exactly.
And where is it coming from? Who's gathering it? Where is it coming from?
And why isn't it general knowledge?
Yes.
Exactly.
MIB.
Right. Exactly. We'll talk about it in a skiff. Mr. Gold comes on from NASA, and he said NASA has various databases full of UAP information, but we are not collecting sufficient data from civilian reporters. And there's been too much stigma attached to it. Unlike us that just don't care.
Well, I think, even though I'd say, what would you say, Aaron, last decade, that stigma has slowly been chipped away? And I mean slowly.
If even. I really attribute a lot of it to 2020.
Yeah.
Because when that whole thing hit, you had a lot of armchair sleuthers that had plenty of time on their hands to start kind of digging into stuff. And it was like more and more people would be like, hey, I found this video. What do you think? And then other people would kind of chime in and go, yeah, man, that's really weird. And then now, congressional hearings.
Well, and I also think, adding UFOs, things like that, into more mainstream media, too, helped destigmatize it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just,
But you
crazy Uncle Ted saying weird stuff.
Yeah.
In his Winnebago. Saying weird stuff anymore. It was, here's this documentary of a whole town that saw something.
Right.
Yep.
But even,
Phoenix Lights.
Travis Walton. Yeah. And Betty and
Barney
Hill. All the way up to like when they released Independence Day, right? And you're watching it, you're like, fun, sci-fi. And there were some people like, no, there's UFOs. And you're like, okay, go back to your Winnebago.
Yeah.
And now it's a way, way more open discussion for sure.
And it's probably influenced from all that. And I know that a lot of people like the comfort of thinking that somebody is in control of all this, but they're not.
No.
I think someone's sitting.
Oh, yeah.
And hang on, quite literally sitting on top of this database. From what I've heard, it's literally under someone's office. And it is not connected to anything remotely.
Right.
And they just keep putting all this information inside this thing. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But if it is true, then I believe that Congress should have full access to that.
So this, again, if you're just watching this thing and you're interested in it, but you don't have the background of conspiratorial type things, you might not pick up on this. But Mr. Gold from NASA talked about the Artemis project and how great it would be if we had this technology, because we need to beat China to the moon.
Yeah.
Okay, so say that out loud and slowly. We need to beat China to the moon. Okay, Stanley Kubrick, good job, because apparently we haven't been there. You got the NASA guy saying.
I know. And when you'd sit there and say that we didn't go to the moon, I would just shake my head at you. Honestly.
I know.
But the more I've looked into this.
Here we go again.
I'm sorry, Steve. But the more I've looked into this, and to hear astronauts in space, mind you, floating in the International Space Station, watching an interview, and this astronaut's like, yeah, we lost that technology.
Yeah.
To get past this radiation belt.
Yeah, the Van Allen
And then
belt.
to watch another scientist on the ground go, yeah, we misplaced that.
Oh, we recorded Dukes of Hazzard over the original tapes. Like,
That's hilarious.
I'm growing critical, buddy.
I love it.
I'm growing critical.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. I see it like if I have a Ferrari and I can drive 204 miles an hour, but it's too expensive to maintain, and I get rid of it, I can no longer drive 204 miles an hour. That doesn't mean I never could do it. I just don't currently have the technology that allows me to do it.
Okay, that being said, if I had Mr. Ferrari standing in the room and all of the resources of NASA, and I looked at Mr. Ferrari and said, you did this once, remember?
Yeah, can we go back?
Yeah, well, look at the budget they had back then, though, compared to what they have now. It's all money. They can't afford to build an F1 rocket engine anymore, and I don't think they have the documents to do it anyway because they lost it.
I lost them.
But it's not that they never could do it; they just can't do it right now with the budget and materials that they have. That's my take on it.
I'll
I'm
give
with
you that.
Steve.
Yeah.
Look, and look,
See?
it's
We're
just
the bookends.
I don't want people to think that I'm saying that we didn't go.
That's what he's saying.
I'm
That's
saying
exactly
it.
what he's saying.
Even though that is what he's saying, he doesn't want you to think that that's what he's saying.
What I am saying is the evidence that we didn't is pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I hear scientists start contradicting things that I've believed my whole life,
Right.
Yeah.
that's where I start going, Jesus, did you?
Yeah.
Did you guys really pull this off?
And that's a great thing
And when you
about-
start hearing people say stuff like, we got to beat China to the
Well,
moon.
yeah, but that's
Whoa,
because
what?
it's a new space race. It doesn't matter what happened before. It's a new space race now.
Yeah, I kind of
Yeah, but
took
it
that as a
should matter.
saying.
Yeah.
It
More
should
so?
matter that if we did it, that's kind of the pinnacle. That's the feather in the cap going, we're China.
Yeah, but
Late to the moon.
it doesn't matter who made it before. It matters who makes it now. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
I know. It's sometimes it's that truth in plain sight or that Freudian slip that you're like, he just said we have to beat China. The moon. Like,
Right.
what?
We got to make sure we get there first.
I don't know
mean,
what kind of
again,
hand signals were going on then. I don't know. I was so overtaken with this that there's probably somebody in the background going,
wave him off. Wave him off. Abort.
Oh, my
Abort.
God. So then he goes on to talk about UAP, USO, so submerged, are intelligently controlled 100%. This is the part that I was like, if you have to talk offline about these other things, but you're telling us this kind of stuff, what is the offline stuff?
I
Because
wanna
you're giving
know.
us some pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Elizondo comes on, and they were talking about different observations of UAPs, USOs, and he came out with this great fact: human bodies can withstand about 9 G forces for a very short period of time before blackout, redout, and non-aliving happen. F-16s can perform up to 17 to 18 Gs of force before structural integrity makes the actual body of the plane fail. The vehicles they have observed are moving in excess of 1,000, 2,000, and in some cases, 3,000 Gs.
Wow.
What? That gives me goosebumps. Like, what is that?
First off, we don't have a material
No.
that could withstand that kind of G.
No.
Secondly, it would literally turn a human being into mush instantaneously. And number 3, to achieve that, you would need to be in a gravity bubble.
Right. Yeah.
Which we've talked about.
Which Bob Lazar says that's how these things work.
Right. So Congressman Garcia asked if any government agency was knowingly concealing the proof of UAPs from the public. Every one of the panel, the 4 witnesses, said yes, 100%. He said, what do you believe UAPs are? I think it was the Godot said non-human higher intelligence. Elizondo echoed that. Schellenberger said, don't know. Gold said, don't know, but we must find out. Godot interestingly brought up that we must find out what frequency the UAPs operate on, which I thought was interesting because we've talked about that as well. Elizondo said, we are not alone in the universe. Biologics have been collected, in possession of bodies currently, any communication of or with alien life. And Elizondo said, yes. And he said, well, like verbal or nonverbal? He goes, well, think of it this way. If a Russian military jet enters U.S. airspace and we send 2 interceptors in, it's communication. Like, get the hell out of here, but it's nonverbal. He said, I kind of took it, though, as well as maybe ESP. I don't know. Something along those lines. And then he said something about capability versus intent. We've seen the capability of these craft. We have no idea what the intent is. Because they've, as far as we know, we've never been threatened by them. Then this gal, let's see. No, I didn't write her name down. I want to say it was, start with a B. I thought it was really interesting. This is timestamp 1 hour, 48 minutes, 41 seconds. And she's like, she says, Immaculate Constellation. She said, well, since I'm on that list, let's go for some others. The Earth is flat. And she went on this tirade of different things, which I just thought was so funny. And I'm like, that's awesome. And she brought up that we've only studied 5% of our ocean. We know more about space than our ocean.
See, that's the whole thing. Like, whenever we were talking about the ocean earlier and they were talking about, I was like, that's the whole thing I kept thinking. I was like, that's the perfect spot.
And the thing is, we know
hide
that
there forever.
We know there's creatures and stuff down there.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
so she asked, are there USOs? So unidentified submersible objects. Schellenberger, yes. Are there underwater bases? I can't speak to that.
Depends what you mean by base.
Well, and it means, kind of, I can't speak to that because you can't speak to that or because they don't exist.
Right, yeah.
Didn't say. Godot said that one of the biggest potential issues is air crash, that it's extensive. Because these things, there have been documented cases that they talked about where fighter pilots have observed these things and then been surrounded by them and made evasive maneuvers and couldn't get away from them.
Yeah.
And that these things have moved in such brash ways that they've actually split formations because they're of fear of a crash with them. So, I mean, these guys don't break formation. They break formation because they're like, it was coming right at us.
Yeah.
And they couldn't
literally
do
playing a game of chicken.
Honestly.
With our fighter pilots.
Correct.
Well, and thinking about what they mentioned earlier about paying people because they were injured during certain things like this. Yeah.
And then in wrapping up kind of toward the end of this, May said, great, we've learned a lot of interesting things here today. There's still more work to be done, blah, blah, blah. But at the end, what are non-human biologics? Great question. Best answer came from Godot, who said, and I tried to write this down verbatim. I don't know if I caught it all, but he said, I don't think that it's a stretch when you look at the diversity of life on this planet and the size of this universe to think that they'd be more diverse, higher order, non-human intelligence throughout the universe, and that is probably what is visiting us. Which I'm like, this guy knows a lot more than he's saying or allowed to say, but he's still saying it.
Yeah.
This is what is visiting us. If you put the emphasis on the correct syllable, it tells you everything that you need to know. Honest to God, I kind of, like I said, I watched this so that like you guys didn't have to. You need to go watch it. Even break it up into 15-minute, 20-minute increments, whatever. It's fascinating. If you're here watching this and you're interested in this kind of stuff, this is like kind of like recommended viewing for sure.
First up, the name of that representative again, please.
Nancy Mace,
Nancy
South Carolina.
I don't know anything about her history, but I would say shoot her some support in any way that you possibly can. We need people like this in Congress. And she's not the only one. There are other individuals who have gone after these answers and have been bullied or silenced in some way.
Well, they were. They were told, don't hold this. Don't ask these questions. They're like, come at me, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Come at me, bro.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because that's the responsibility of my representative. It's not a safe job. I didn't give you a safe job by electing you to either serve in the Senate or the House. That is not why you're not there to be safe. You're there to make sure that I'm safe. You're there to make sure that my family's safe.
And questions are answered.
Exactly.
And this kind of, people are like, yeah, but there's, the homeless crisis or starving people or what. Yes, it's all very important. But without knowing what this is and being able to protect, nothing else matters. You got stuff hovering over nuclear facilities? No bueno. Like, we can't clean our own house until we can keep that threat outside of our house. It's not worth it. I mean, if they can just show up and...
Or, again,
doesn't matter.
we talk about energy and things like that. Like, what do we have access to that we do not know about?
Right.
And again, people are also elected to protect a system.
Right.
See, and that's the part of this that I really like is these people don't give two shits. They're like, yeah, okay, we get the system, but we're not. I found it really interesting that aside from maybe one or two representatives, these were all people our age.
Yeah.
They're not swampers. Like they're not entrenched in that old school protect the system at all costs. They're more, we're here, but we want to make this better. But there's a lot of unanswered questions that have gone unanswered for far too long.
But PACs are funded by someone.
True. Yeah.
And those someones are interested more in the system and keeping the status quo than they are. I just love how you're petting him so affectionately.
He's been staring at us the whole time.
Yeah, I know. Actually, he's been going back and forth. He's been paying attention. But my point being that this bravery from these congressional members, I want to see this continue. I want to see this keep going. But we have to realize that if things like zero gravity, what is it, Steve? Is 0 point energy, right? 0 point energy. I think I misspoke beforehand. 0 point energy, meaning that the ether literally has energy in it that we can just pull out.
Tesla.
Nobody owns it. It's free. That breaks the system down. If I'm not concerned about getting any kind of energy, God, man, think about the size you could make a farm.
All right. Yeah.
I got friends out there who've become big time farmers. Shout out to you, Ben. Big time farmer, and energy and costs is just it's killing it.
See, and I get that, but at the same time, I'm also kind of thinking like, okay, well, here's your free energy. Now we're going to tax you based on hours used of your machinery.
That's the thing.
They're going to get their money.
They're always going to find a way.
They're going to find the money.
Yeah.
To get money.
Yeah.
I'm super excited because I thought after Grush and those guys did their thing, and then we did the No Skiff November a year ago,
that it was just going to get dropped.
that we would never hear anything again. Here we are a year later, and it's kind of getting better, and it's getting a little more open. So where are we going to be November 2025? I don't know, but I'm excited.
I hope that this continues forward. Certain institutions are going to have the coming to Jesus moment.
A lot to answer for.
Yeah. But I feel that the human species is ready for it. But again, if the United States and private partners have been reverse engineering UFO technology, and I admit to that, and I'm a foreign country, now I know what you have, or the possibility of what you have, and now I want it, and I want to control it, and I won't hide it. I won't show discipline. I'll use it.
It'll just be North Korea with UFOs instead of the big missile trucks.
Right, yeah.
During parade day.
My thing is, China's more than just an up-and-comer. Up-and-comer was 20 years ago. China's the main player on the face of this planet now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, whether, true-blooded, patriotic Americans want to admit that or not, we're no longer the big boy on the block. China scares me. I don't think that they have, some interests that some people do, or believe that they have.
Right.
But I would say if they had their hands on this type of reverse engineered technology from UFOs, I think they'd use it. They'd apply it a lot more than what we have.
Well, I just have a hard time thinking that we're the only country that has access to this technology.
We're not. Within the document, I read a little section that after the fall of the Iron Curtain, we learned, even before the fall of the Iron Curtain, we knew about it, but we could actually confirm it once that went down. The Soviet Union had been running tests on UAPs and how that technology affected the human mind and quite possibly expanded parapsychology. So we've talked about, Project Looking Glass and all these other projects that people are like, oh, it's whispered, that's crazy conspiracy stuff. But now we've got confirmation that there were experiments using UAP technology to expand the psychic abilities of human beings. That's huge.
That's kind of a
Whether
big deal.
people want to admit it. Look, was it a surprise to me and Aaron? No. Because are we crazy and believe this stuff?
Yeah, I knew it.
Right? But now you've got a very serious document saying, they did. And we learned about it. This really did happen. Holy crap, guys. That's massive.
Oh, just wait. You're going to I predicted this the other day before all of this came out, and I said you are going to see some disclosure over the next, however, I don't know that it's going to take that long, but it could be over the course of the next 5-10 years, whatever, that you never in your lifetime thought you were going to see.
Could you imagine, though? Now, there was that conspiracy we talked about where there were two species, not even species, two groups of aliens. One wanted to end the world because the end of the world means they evolve because they're not aliens. They're us. But they need us to end so that they can begin. And then there's J-Rod. The alien that was captured, partnered with, that taught us, turn off this piece of equipment, stop 2012 from happening. And now the bad guys are like, holy crap. So 2012 didn't happen. We need conflict. We need something to end the world. And then J-Rod and his buddies are saying, no, let's just see where this goes, baby. And some predict that at some point in the nearer rather than farther future, human beings will reach a point where we can all read each other's minds.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Global consciousness.
It's
I
really
gotta stop
funny.
thinking a lot of things.
See,
Longtime
now I'm
viewers,
thinking about all of them.
longtime viewers will know she said the
I know
same
you
exact thing. She said the same exact thing during the show.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. Yeah. But not a secret would be hidden. Not an intention put forth would be misread.
You wouldn't have to have that awkward conversation about where's your bathroom.
Right?
Someone would go, he's got to pee.
Yeah.
All right, you can go there.
Yeah, pee.
That's what it is.
But you see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
But
Absolutely.
if all of us reached that point, we'd all feel the exact same way.
Right. Yeah.
Shock, horror, fear. And then all of a sudden it'd just be like, okay, well, I guess this is it. Because now we all know everything about each other. What then?
Divorce rates through the roof.
Right?
Or would they? Maybe at first everyone would be like, okay.
Yeah.
So you actually can't stand me.
Yeah.
But going forward from that point, I think you'd have nothing to fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd have nothing to fear.
Well, and I think that's what I took from this is it's not being kept from us for fear. Because they're like, we're ready. It's being kept from us for energy, for disruption, for something. Because they're all
For
like,
profit.
we are ready. Give it to us. Why aren't they?
Profit. Because my hill has got to be bigger than your hill.
The thing that sticks in my mind about all this is like, as much progress as it appears to be, it really isn't because of the one letter they haven't changed in the acronym, which is the U. Until that becomes an I, everything else is speculation.
Excellent point.
And when it becomes an I, that's when stuff changes.
When we finally say, yeah,
This is what this is.
It's
Right.
identifiable.
Yeah.
this is who they are. This is where they come from. This is their intention.
I will say, though, if they're like, yeah, it's lizard people. I'll be like, oh, God, here we go.
They feed on your soul.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of things that could happen. The moon could be hollow.
Yeah, right.
Oh, my God, the earth could be flat. What?
Anything could be happening then.
Anything could be going on. I guess we'll learn once we get there. No, that was a joke. I don't know. I'm back and forth. Anyway, the report itself actually closes with a pretty good conclusion. And I'm going to read just the end part of it. The good in humanity will always triumph through time. And it is in moments of crisis that our capabilities for achieving the extraordinary are discovered. Be not afraid. You've been watching the Jackalopes explore.
Hey, you gotta give me the jackalope. You made him too cute this whole time.
He was engaged.
He's listening.